Hello, everyone, and welcome to another Tower of Babel podcast. As always, I am Julian Mush. I am joined, as always, by Rachel Wilkinson.
You said it wrong. This is a small screen Star Wars podcast.
Don't
You
even.
said
Okay,
Tower of Babel.
you're right. We should start over. It's not like this is
Oh,
live
you
or
don't
anything.
Just start over.
It's not like this is live or anything. All right, here we go. We're gonna start over. No, we're starting over. Hello, everyone, and welcome to another small screen Star Wars. As always, I am Julian Mush. I'm joined by Rachel Wilkinson.
Hello.
And we are going to be covering the latest in Star Wars on the small screen, which is where it lives now these days, especially with more news about more projects being canceled. Rogue One, the Rogue Squadron movie being canceled basically now, shelved, quote unquote. There's no really hope on the horizon for Star Wars on the big screen, which is why we didn't call our podcast that. So, anywho, anyway, we're going to be talking about Chapter 20 of The Mandalorian, Season 3, Episode 4, and that is called The Foundling. And then we'll also be talking about, because we're doubling up on shows today, we're going to be talking about Star Wars The Bad Batch, Season 2, Episode 14, Tipping Point. So we'll be doing The Mandalorian first because there's more of you, and then we'll be doing The Bad Batch. Although I encourage you to stick around if you haven't been, because what The Bad Batch is doing right now, superb, excellent stuff. This week's episode, Chef's Kiss, very good. So we'll get into that. I wouldn't be surprised if we spent more time on The Bad Batch this week than we did The Mandalorian, but we shall see. Time will tell. All right, before we get into everything, just a little bit of housekeeping. We are live. As I mentioned at the top, we're live on Twitch and YouTube. One of the great things about a recent update to YouTube was that I was able to change our YouTube handle. So now it aligns with all of the other things that we use. So you can find us on Twitch and YouTube at Tower Babblecast, BABBLE. And so that's youtube.com/Tower Babblecast or twitch.com/Tower Babblecast, and you'll get to us. Subscribe to us there, and you'll get notified when we go live. And for these shows, the Star Wars shows, typically Wednesday nights is when they air. So we do our episode the following evening, anywhere between 7 to 8, 8:30 Central Time. If you want to keep track of when that's going to happen, you can also follow us on Twitter at Tower Babblecast on Twitter, and facebook.com/Tower Babblecast to keep up with everything we're doing. Head over to the website towerbabble.ca to find all the details. There is a blog there, but it's old, so don't look at that. just find all the shows that we do, including the Tower Babble podcast. Our
wait, what the blog used to have on it?
I used to have just more free time when I was managing the escape room in the Cayman Islands. I would have a lot of free time on my hands, so I would do two things. I would do play the kind of like that World of Warcraft card game that's on you know what I'm talking about, the Warcraft game that's made by Blizzard for the phones. It's like a phone game. Card Battler. It's really cool. Or at least I thought it was really cool, and then I burnt out on it. I think I might even still have it on my phone. It's probably uninstalled now. But either way, here it is. Hearthstone. That's the one. So I would play Hearthstone, and if I got bored of Hearthstone, I would instead write a blog post. And I was trying to do one a week, which was, I feel like, it sounds like not a lot, but trying to come up with and write and then edit a blog post weekly is actually harder than it seems. So I stopped. After basically right around the same time as the premiere of season 10 of Game of Thrones was the last one that I put out. So it's been several years. I'll revive it someday. I've kind of de-emphasized it on the website. So anyway, you don't worry about that. It's all about the podcast over there. Check that out.
Maybe I'll take it over for you.
Hey, if you want,
I'm on a vacation now, so
right, you got lots of time.
Maternity leave starting today. Yeah,
yeah. I don't think anyone calls maternity leave
when they show up.
Yeah, I don't think so. My understanding is the first couple of weeks are actually pretty easy, but if you have the extra time, we are looking for guest contributors. If someone is looking for a blog platform that they want to write on, happy to take your call. Email us towerbabblepodcast@gmail.com. All right. But only if you're legit. We get a lot of the spam emails in our contact us form on the website saying like, "Hey, I'll be your contributor. I'll write posts for your blog," and it's all SEO bullshit. So don't be one of those. But You know what I mean. I can't pay you, but that's the other thing. Maybe a little bit. We'll see. All right, so let's get into the meat of it. I guess I will remind folks that if you want to help support the show, patreon.com/TowerBabbleCast. If we get more patrons, we could probably afford to hire our own blogger. Just saying, it's a possibility. I'm not making promises, but it's a possibility. Patreon.com/TowerBabbleCast. We're also live in our Discord channel. So for $2.50, you get access to the Discord. At $5, you also get our monthly film clubs. This month, we're doing Enemy, the Denis Villeneuve film. So looking forward to that. But if you want to get the pre and post show experience and you want to kind of just hang out with us, you can, if you are a patron, go into our into the Discord, go to the recording studio voice channel, and you can join and listen to us there. And text with us, chat with us in there. And then if you're very lucky, we might pull you into a conversation at some point. Definitely not opposed to that. The other ways, of course, is to hang out on the YouTube or Twitch when we're recording. So that is now out of the way. Let's get into the meat of this.
Wild West in there, though.
Well, a little bit, yeah. I mean, we try to keep. I mean, I think it's pretty. I think it's pretty well. I think people are pretty polite, generally speaking, in there. I think it's pretty well maintained.
Yeah, sometimes you get weirdos in there, but.
No. That's not the Discord. That's on the live. That's the live chats.
No, I know. That's what I mean. That's what I'm saying.
Oh.
I was like, the Discord is safer for.
Oh yeah, that's true. The Discord is for sure safer.
Family to be in and to chat in because there's no random weirdos on there. Whereas every once in a while on the YouTube one we get a.
It's usually Twitch. I think that's where the weirdos come from.
Probably.
Yeah, it seems to be. No offense to people who like Twitch or anything. We are obviously on Twitch. There's nothing against that, but there are weirdos out there. That is a fact.
Yeah. Whichever one you tell me not to read all the time. So you're like, yeah, don't go in there. Don't read.
Don't ever look at the chat. Just never look at it. I'll be the moderator. Okay. We have lots to cover. Let's get into this. Chapter 20, Season 3, Episode 4, The Foundling. The logline is as follows. Din Djarin returns to the hidden Mandalorian covert, which technically happened last week. Whatever.
Yeah.
This is directed by Carl Weathers. So that's kind of fun. He's directed episodes in the past. He plays what's his name? Grief Karga. But he's like the magistrate, high magistrate Grief Karga.
High magistrate or something. Right.
Yeah. Don't make fun of his title. He's high magistrate. Yeah. Please.
Carl Weathers, like, okay, so him as a director, like being like you see his name as the director, it kind of made me giggle because of like the character he plays on Arrested Development because he plays himself.
Oh yes,
on Arrested Development, and it's just so funny the way he plays him, like because he plays like a really funny version of himself that's pretty much like just a scam artist.
Oh really? Okay.
No, he plays as like a scam artist who like has no money and teaches acting classes, but just like takes money from Tobias and like it's really funny.
Right.
And gives him like terrible acting lessons, but yeah, it just made me think of that. Whenever I see Carl Weathers' real name on things, that's what it always makes me think of.
That is cool.
Yeah, but I was like, but a great episode that he directed here.
Yeah, it's pretty good. It's funny you mentioned Carl Weathers. Of course, I'm also watching Creed. Watched Creed 3 last week, and obviously there's the Carl Weathers connection there from his Rocky days. But that's what I think of when I think of Carl Weathers. All right, so. This was directed by Carl Weathers, as I said, written by Jon Favreau and Dave Filoni. We get a couple new members of the cast, but mostly that being said, some of them are more surprising than others. Others we can't see their faces, the other Mandalorian characters. But we should clarify that the foundling who plays Ragnar, we found out that, of course, that Paz Vizsla has a son. That was the kid that we saw the other episode.
Ragnar Vizsla. Coolest name.
It's a very cool name. And he's played by Wesley Kimmel, who is Jimmy Kimmel's nephew. So.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Uh-huh.
That's nepotism.
That is nepotism. It is. We should call it out wherever we see it.
But yeah, no, that's really funny. Yeah, interesting. Okay. Yeah, I mean, he's never going to take his helmet off, so. I don't know.
So well, we did see his face we did see his face last week, right?
It's true, we did.
Or was it the week before?
Or
I
2
don't
weeks
remember
ago.
now.
Yeah, I think it was two
Yeah.
weeks ago.
Anywho, so the recap shows us the Mandalorian Creed, shows us the Mythosaur again, and it shows us Din and Bo being redeemed. So we knew that this was going to be a pretty tight episode centering on these characters and what's going on there. What was your overall thought on this episode? You said you liked it.
I liked it. I liked it a lot. Yeah, I just obviously, I mean, there's obviously a huge other part to this episode that is very cool that I was not expecting to come up. Um, yeah, like a piece of the story that we've all been kind of curious about and wondering about for Grogu's story. So that was cool. But yeah, I don't know. I liked this whole kind of I don't know, showing Din and Bo Katan like working with this their new found guild
Mm-hmm.
here. So
I
yeah,
don't know.
overall I enjoyed it.
I don't know. I don't know. Maybe I'm just being a little nitpicky. I liked it. I felt like more immediately after having watched it, and then going through doing the recap stuff and reading more about it, and then watching it again today before for our show. It just feels a little. I understand what it's doing. To be clear, right? This is kind of like it's like a
Okay.
version of a bottle episode, right? It's not driving plot forward, but we're doing some character growth here. And we are getting a little bit of world building with the Mandalorian culture. But
Yeah. Oh yeah.
I did find that the episode itself felt cheap to me. And
Really?
yeah, and obviously there's effects work that they're doing with like the large creatures and whatnot, which is why I'm wearing my Godzilla shirt today. But I had to get that reference in. But I don't know. Overall, I just kind of thought it was a little like it was, it's fine. I would say it's like a solid like six and a
Really?
half or 7. Yeah. IGN gave it a
Okay,
7.
fair enough.
I'm not just copying their score. I just generally feel like this isn't blowing me away. I think in the long scheme of things, the big scheme of things, when we look back at the show, I don't know if this episode is going to be the one that we think about a lot, right? Except, of course, for the middle section with the flashback. That'll probably have more
Right.
lingering
Yeah.
effects,
Because I
right?
was like, what? I was like, yeah, that's kind of huge almost, but
Yeah, yeah, we'll get to
yeah.
that. I'm not going to spoil that surprise quite yet. Yeah, but that is a
Yeah.
pretty cool one. Um, yeah, I don't know. I just thought it was okay. Lots of work
Fair
for
enough.
the armor, which I liked. And I also did enjoy kind of
Mm-hmm.
having Bo and Din kind of team up with these other Mandalorians in a more kind of casual way. Although maybe more too
Yeah.
casual,
Yeah.
because like I swear to God, they're like not in a rush to save this kid. You know what I mean? So that's a little odd to me. I
No.
would have felt like
No.
a little bit more urgency would have been nice. But other than that, no, I did. I thought it was okay. So
Yeah, I feel like with that whole thing, like this has obviously happened before to their kind of group here, and I think usually it ends bad. Like it's happened enough times to them now that they're like, "Oh, if you
there
get
goes
taken by
another
the
one.
raptor." Yeah, like it's kind of like, that sucks."
Yeah.
The
Okay.
way what's the way she goes. So, I don't know, I always get especially with like Mandalorians in general. Um not that they're not that they don't have like feelings and emotions, but I always kind of get that sort of Viking vibe from them where it's like the
Right.
honor of like dying in battle and stuff like that. Like they don't really like death to them doesn't
Have the
isn't
same. It's not as scary. Yeah.
yeah, it's not like the same weight because their whole
Would
creed
you
in life
say?
is like
Would you say
fighting.
getting killed by or getting eaten by a giant, essentially dragon, would consider being killed in battle? I guess
I
maybe
mean,
since it's a kid, they would give him the leeway.
yeah, probably, but I mean, yeah, it's obviously a bummer if it eats your kid, but it's
Yeah, that is a
yeah.
bummer.
But again, I
Understatement of the year there.
it gives gives Mando and Bo-Katan a little bit more weight within this group. I think of them being able to be like, oh shit, like they got him back. Like the rest of them, I don't think we're expecting that to happen, right? So
Hmm. All right, so let's get into the recap, or the kind of the play-by-play, as it were. So we start on. We still don't know the name of this planet, right? Is that
yeah,
fair to
big
say?
secret.
Okay.
I would say so. I don't because I think like Din specifically didn't tell her when he was like inputting the coordinates and stuff. when they were going there. Like he hasn't said where they are yet.
Yeah, it's just a secret place.
Yeah.
I don't know. I would. I mean, it seems like I have lots of questions. Like, it sounds like
Okay.
it was not clear to me whether or not the giant dragon was a shriekhawk. They're talking. It's a shriekhawk or whatever. But I don't know if that's actually what's going on there. You know,
Oh,
or
okay.
if it's just another animal and there just like happens to be similarities to the shriekhawk and they're using that terminology in a kind of confusing way. Um, and if it is a
I don't
shriekhawk, does
know.
that mean they're close to Mandalore? If that creature is native to Mandalore, and how does that work? So I don't know. I just find that
Hmm.
there's some things that are not quite clear to me on this in this whole thing. So okay, let's move on. So we're on the mystery planet, and we see lots of Mandalorians training. They're sparring. We got some use of gadgets. They're just shooting stuff into the water for no reason. That seems odd. Um, but but otherwise, I think it's kind of cool to see these Mandalorians kind of using their stuff and doing their warrior thing. And what does it actually mean to live in a warrior society? Well, it means training as a warrior every day, all day long. Um,
Yeah.
I swear to God,
Dueling.
one of the Mandalorians was CG. I'd like the whole thing was a CG creation, like
Just one.
one of the people. Yeah, like or they've like really mastered the ability to
That would be insane.
I don't know, maybe they needed more than they had is my guess. And I'm not
Unless
sure
like they
for
were
sure. This
using
is
the volume and
yeah.
like are you talking like in the background? Like unless they're using the volume and they had a couple like that were added in the background.
No,
I
one
feel
of
like
them
they would
that was like pretty close to where Din was standing looked fake to me. I don't know, it was like the way he was
I don't
shooting his blaster
okay.
looked exactly like they were using the same animations as the way that Mandalorians shoot blasters in the animated shows. That's all I'm saying. Either that or that guy's really good at replicating that
Really?
motion. Is all. So just keep an eye out. There's some weirdness in this episode.
Yeah, I didn't get to watch it a second time. I didn't have time today, so maybe when I go back, I'll look out for your one fake Mandalorian.
Yeah, please do. If anyone can back me up on this, I would appreciate that.
I'll report back. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So they're doing this sparring stuff. We also see that Grogu is messing around with some what looked at first like rocks, but turns out they're crabs. Kind of a fun little twist on the whole concept that the Jedi or the Force is more than just lifting rocks. So I think there's a little bit of a wink to
Right.
that. And Mando comes over to collect him, and he just calls them rocks, which is really funny. um, again,
Yeah.
showing us where that perception comes from in the first place. Uh, any thoughts on this kind of like opening sequence where we're getting to see these Mandalorians, I guess, kind of through the eyes of Bo and Grogu kind of just hanging out? We're kind of setting the stage
Yeah,
here.
I mean, I thought it was kind of cool getting to see Mandalorians like train because I don't really know if we've actually seen them do any of this kind of like sparring and training before with each other. So I kind of thought that was neat. I was like, oh, okay, yeah, I guess that makes sense as like a warrior society. Like whole parts of their day would be dedicated to just training. Um, and then yeah, obviously it's always cute when Grogu's interacting with nature and things. I did love how like when Din like picks him up or takes him from that like how many of those crabs were around him like they were just surrounding him which is like to me I'm like was that just because he's force sensitive that they're all like drawn to him or was like were they trying to like eat him like I don't know. I thought for
I
sure he was
think
gonna pick one up and eat it but he
it's
didn't so
usually him who's the one who's eating stuff. Yeah, typically.
yeah. But I was like there's so many crabs around him.
Okay, so let's move on a little bit more. Din puts up Grogu or picks up Grogu to join the kind of sparring that's going on. It's like, well, if you want to be a Mandalorian, you gotta engage in the whole dealio,
Oh, I was
and
laughing really hard at that.
yeah, it is. I mean, the visual of this is like silly, like
Yeah.
on the face of it, right? It's like,
I was just
okay,
joking because
fight
he's like,
this
here's the
baby.
next challenger. Yeah, like here, literally here, fight this baby. To like this kid who's probably what, like 10, 12. I don't know how old you are when you take your Mandalorian creed, but it was just like, next challenger. this baby. It can't
Yeah, yeah,
talk. Fight him. Like
yeah.
I'd be like,
It's
what the
good.
hell? What do you mean?
Well, you got to
Yeah.
appreciate Din's kind of like optimism here, right? Like he's like, well,
Yeah. Yeah. Seems
what can
fine.
you do? Yeah, it's fine. He's just got to start somewhere, right? He'll get there, right? And so
I
that's
feel like that's
fun.
such a typical dad thing. Like, where you just like push your kid into the pool and be like, he'll learn. Like
It's either he'll learn or he'll
he's
drown.
got water.
That's right.
Yeah, he's got water wings on or whatever it is. It's just like you're fine. Like your
Well,
kid
it's
falls
very
down
similar
or
to
whatever.
like how the Mandalorians are kind of based around the Spartans, right, of ancient Greece, who were a warrior
Yeah, yeah,
society and would like, you would sink or swim as a child, right? You either were able to survive the intense training or die, right?
yeah.
And if you were misshapen, you were thrown away. I mean, I'm referencing 300 there, but still, I think a lot of that is based in something that is real. So I kind of get that same vibe here. Um, so at first the referee is like, no, he's too small, but Din is like, no, I'm his ward, so it's okay. Which ward just means like protector. Think of like
Yeah, yeah.
Batman and Robin. Yeah. And then he talks about how if he wants to be, basically graduate from foundling to apprentice. So I guess there's like you're a foundling when you're a child, and then you graduate to apprentice at some point. I don't know when. I don't know if Din was an apprentice in season 1. I don't think so. He was kind of off on doing his own thing. I don't know. Maybe that's teenage years. Unclear.
Uh, no,
Do
I
we
would
know about
assume
any
like
of
you're an
this?
apprentice before you take. No, but I just from like the way it sounds, like I would assume that like apprentice would be like before you take the creed or something.
Oh
But
no, I don't
I
think
don't
so.
know. Maybe not.
I think Ragnar is a
No.
foundling
Okay.
still at this time, and he has to like train to become an apprentice. I think that's
I
my
don't think
understanding
he
of it anyway.
counts as a. Don't you have to be like found to be a foundling though?
No, I
I
don't
thought
think they use
foundling was
that.
reserved for just like
I don't think they use that. I think it's
like
pretty loosey goosey terminology.
is it?
I think so.
Oh, okay. I always thought foundling were like orphans and shit that Mandalorians
Well,
just
I
kind
think
of
they're
come
also
across.
that. I think they also
Yeah.
call him the child, like the child, or the. I don't think they call him younglings, but maybe you're right. I mean,
No,
maybe he's just a
I
child
could be
and then
wrong. But
needs to graduate to apprentice from child instead of
yeah,
foundling.
yeah,
I don't know.
yeah.
Um,
Could be.
so there's also some scuttlebutt about how he can't. So why is he not wearing a helmet, right? And the answer from Din is that that he's too young to wear a helmet. If he's too young to speak the creed, therefore he's too young to wear a helmet. I guess that does make sense,
Mm-hmm.
right? Also, kids' heads grow
Yeah, you
really
can't
fast,
take
so like,
oath.
also imagine like making like forging a helmet for like a 2-year-old, and then within like 3 weeks they have to like
For
grow
a
into a
baby.
new one. Yeah, doesn't make any sense.
Yeah, like
Yeah,
I guess to me it makes sense for their whole shtick and their whole creed is about not taking your helmet off, right?
yeah,
So it makes sense that you need to be able to speak the creed and like agree with all of that before they're just going to shove a helmet on you that you can never
sure.
take off again.
Yeah, exactly.
But
Um, and then there's this whole like one does not speak unless one knows, which I guess is just them saying, you know, um, unless you understand what's going on, your opinion isn't valuable. I think
well, yeah,
wisdom is valuable is really kind of what they think is going from on that.
pretty much.
Or what was
Like
that the
shut up
vibe you
about things
got?
you don't know things about.
Yeah,
Yeah, like I got like you don't talk about something you don't know anything about. Like it's
right.
just
Mind your own
yeah.
beeswax. Right. Okay, I got
Yeah.
it. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
And I do like that. Well, maybe this lesson is for you then, kind of saying that, like, obviously, Ragnar still has some things to learn himself. So they get training darts, and they're basically just paintball guns that they strap to their wrists. And I love Bo giving Grogu kind of like a little pep talk, right? Strapping on it's so hilarious to watch her strap
It's
on
so big. Yeah.
this big wrist mount thing onto this tiny little arm, right?
Yeah.
And she's like, "Don't worry, my dad was the exact same way." What do you mean? What do you think she means by her dad was the same way?
I would assume like kind of pushing her into like the training and
Right,
the like jumping in with both feet kind of thing. Like
right. The
just like, oh
dad
yeah,
stuff
don't
you were
be
mentioning
scared, just do
before,
it.
right?
Yeah, exactly. Like just your kind of typical, yeah. The typical way dads are just like, I don't know, just go do it.
All right, fair enough. I think that's an accurate assessment. So the scoring works just like paintball scoring does, which means that the you have to hit them and you have to be able to see the paint. Each shot is worth 1 point. I guess it's unclear if you're allowed to shoot more than one at a time, which it turns out you are. Turns out you are.
They said you could.
Yep.
They said you can. Yeah, at one point they say you can shoot them in whatever order you want, or so it could be just like one at a time, or two or three, or whatever.
Right. So the first 2 rounds go to Ragnar. It looks kind of embarrassing. Like, to be honest, it's very funny to watch the paintballs explode on a tiny little baby Yoda. And then Mando has to give him like another little pep talk, being like, "No, it's okay. You know, it's okay to show that you have the Force. You know, I've seen you use it.
Right.
We trust these people. It's all right." And after that, Grogu just kicks butt. He does like a double flip thing where he jumps over Tim from one side and then jumps back into front and then shoots him 3 times with the darts, winning the challenge.
Yeah.
What did you make of that?
It cracked me up. Like, okay. So I don't have big issues at all with like how they do Grogu. 99% of the time I like it that they use like the actual puppet and it's not like a CGI thing.
Mm-hmm.
But sometimes it literally just looks like a doll flying through the air.
Yeah,
Like,
I agree.
And I think it's because you don't see his like legs. Maybe that like it to me it just literally looks like someone just like threw like I have a Grogu doll and it would look the same as if I just like threw it over your head.
Yeah, well,
So
I think
sometimes it cracks me up.
that's intentional.
But
To be honest, I
yeah.
really think that they're doing that on purpose.
Yeah, like it's very different from like when you see like Yoda jump around in like episode 3, right? Because he's all CGI. But so I feel like he looks a little not more real, but you know what I mean? Like it's I don't know how to word it, but it just sometimes just looks like they're throwing a doll, like a
Well,
literal puppet
I
doll
think
around,
that
which
it's
I think
because
they
I think they are doing that. I think the idea is to make it feel like the original trilogy, right, and kind of have that kind of
are. Right, yeah.
tactical feeling, right? And I think that's
Yeah,
totally
so it makes
fair.
me chuckle.
Yeah, and I
It's
think it's
only when
also
he's flying.
intentionally funny. I think they're not. I don't think they're not
Yeah.
trying to be funny. To be clear, yeah.
Yeah. It was the same thing when Din threw him in that episode at the beginning of the season when he throws him at Grief when the IG unit
Right.
comes to life and is bad again and he throws him at Grief and it literally looks like they just pitched a doll across the room.
I honestly hope that that's what happened because I genuinely find it funny.
Yeah.
It doesn't take me out of
Yeah,
the. I don't know. It sounds like it maybe
No.
takes you out of it, but it doesn't take me out of it. So
For like a second, but not really. It's just like
Yeah.
because it's just so cute too. So yeah.
that's true.
But I'm like,
He's
obviously it's
he's a
good to
lot of
see him,
little
like-
waddling in this episode, right? His
Oh,
little, like
his little legs and shuffling around, so
Yep.
cute. But and I just like anytime he makes a noise, it just says babbling or coos.
yes, he gets a lot of like the best subtitles. I think probably the entire show.
Yeah.
I love the line from Bo here. Oh, did you teach him that? And he's like, not me, which of course is a lesson, a reference to the lessons that Luke taught Grogu.
Oh,
right?
absolutely, yeah.
I keep forgetting. At first, I was like, oh no, don't show off the Force. I'm like, oh wait, I'm just confused. Because I keep jumping between timelines with the Bad Batch being, early Imperial, and then the Mandalorian being just short of recently Imperial, right? It feels like I kind of get confused sometimes. We're like, oh no, okay, no, actually, Jedi are safe now. it's okay to be. I mean, relatively speaking, right? I mean, in this case, Grogu is hunted, but if you can show the Force without, I think, necessarily being worried about being hunted by a Imperial officer or an Inquisitor.
An Inquisitor, or yeah. No, exactly. We don't have to worry about hiding Force powers right now.
Exactly. So after the fight, and a little comment from Paz, his dad, basically being like, maybe you shouldn't have talked about something without knowing what you're talking about. Ragnar gets snatched up by a flying dinosaur. I thought this was so kind of weirdly done. There's a lot of weird stuff in this episode in terms of like just feeling like there could have been done in a more cinematic way. It's like, okay, the fight's over. I'm just going to wander over here 5 feet, and then this giant dragon is going to fly over and pick me up instantly, right? There's no like warning that
Yeah,
it's
yeah.
coming. There's the like it's weirdly staged. It's just odd. So whatever, take it for what you will. The raptor, I think they call it the raptor, right? I don't
I
know.
think so, yeah.
I don't know if, again, this is why it's not clear because a raptor is also the name of like a predatory bird in our world, right? So are they talking about it as like its genus, like its category of animal, or is it talking about that's like its actual name as a beast? So this is where I'm confused. Someone can please help me clear that up. That would be very helpful to
Mm.
me. The Screen Crush recap said it was a Shriek Hawk, but I'm not there. They have flimsy evidence at best for that, so I am skeptical that that's what
But
it is.
didn't I thought at one
They
point they say something along the lines
to
of
bring
like
this Shriek
the
Hawk
Shriek Hawk.
trainers, right? So that's the only thing that kind of
Mhm.
makes it seem like it makes sense. Like,
Yeah.
oh, okay, so we have Shriek trainers here, but they don't have any Shriek so there's nothing to reference them against. And maybe that means that that's what they used to do, but they can repurpose their skills for this mission. So again, I don't know. I guess we could, for the
Yeah.
sake of this
I don't know.
conversation, we'll call it a Shriek But if it turns out that's not what it is, I'll just say I told you so. How's that sound?
Sounds good.
Okay.
Sure.
So Ragnar gets snatched up by the dragon, by the Shriek and they all jump into action, right? And head off in their jetpacks. But they run out of fuel before they can catch it. It's faster than they are and is able to fly for longer. But as they are like looking off disappointedly, we see that Bo, being the smart one, jumped in her ship and actually
Yeah.
flew after the beast. And we got a kind of like a really cool like sunset shot, this big huge sun, and her ship kind of flying right into the sun. It's a very beautiful shot. Apparently, it's a homage to Apocalypse Now, but I've never seen that movie. So,
Neither have I.
what do you think? Did you like the kind of beast chase round
Yeah.
one here?
I mean, yeah, I thought it was interesting. Like, if they already knew, because like Paz says something along the lines of like, it always outruns us, kind of thing.
Yep.
So I thought it was interesting. I'm like, well, why even try? Like, do they not have ships? Like, I don't know how
I
they
don't.
all got
How
there.
did they get there? Because that's a good point. I don't think they do. Maybe they bummed a ride.
Yeah, like,
You
how
know.
did they all? I don't know exactly.
Also,
It's
like,
like,
how
how did
many?
you
Why
all
is there
get
so
here?
many
Like,
of them?
from
Like,
what?
where do they all come from? you know.
Yeah, like that's what I mean. I was like, so they have to have ships somewhere, but yeah. So I'm like, have none of you thought of taking a ship before first? But
Yeah, like they have to have ships because like how do they? There's can't be a lot of food on that planet, and like they have to be able to trade and stuff. So or work. Mando was a bounty hunter for a long time.
yeah,
I don't know.
yeah,
This is what I mean. It just
who
feels a
knows?
little flimsy at times. It's like, okay, there's some cool stuff here, but I just don't feel like it's all thought through or not properly conveyed to us as an audience. Um,
Gotcha. Yeah.
so cool sunset shot. Cut to title sequence. That's a cool cut. We return to find Bo has tracked the beast, finding its little house / nest. On her ship, she shows Paz, Din, and the armor her map. This is what I was talking about before about enjoying the kind of the these characters coming together to work together in a less kind of like clunky dialogue scene, but instead, I love a good planning sesh, or debriefing or whatever, and that's kind of what this
Oh
is.
yeah.
So
Yeah.
there's set your personal feelings aside, work towards a common goal. It's always a good way to kind of endear you to a character. So I thought that worked here well with Paz and the armorer, who I think the armorer
Yeah.
especially has kind of
Definitely.
felt like an antagonist more than not. I feel like lately, so it's nice to see her kind of like actively helping.
Yes, she's. Yeah, yeah, I totally agree with that. I feel like she's definitely very like a cut and dry kind of like. There's no gray area with her.
Yeah, that's true.
I don't know. Like I feel like either you're part of her guild or you're not, and if you're not, she doesn't really give a shit. But
Yeah, I think that's
it's
fair.
just yeah,
You know exactly where she stands with you all times, right?
yeah, yeah. At all times, yeah. It's like either she's willing to help you because you are part of her creed, or she's just like, I don't actually give a shit about you.
right, right.
So
So it turns out that the beast is able to fly quite far, actually, and it flew all the way to this mountain range. And mountains, I guess, is a loose term, but like weirdly shaped, very skinny, tall mountains. too tall for the jetpacks, and also too well, I guess maybe not too high for the jetpacks. I think they said it was too loud, that it would scare the beast, and if they got scared or
Yeah.
spooked, it would kill the child. So I guess they have this understanding. I guess the
Yeah.
reason that they don't have like a lot of urgency here, like why they're not jumping to action right immediately now, is because they know that they keep the younglings alive long enough so
Yeah.
that they can feed them to their young or something. I'm like, I have to literally, the show does not tell us that. I have to assume that that's what it is. Otherwise, the way that they behave in this kind of like very cold. You mentioned like not having this feeling about death. Sure, but they don't. He doesn't want his kid to die. You know what I mean? So
No, of course not. But
yeah,
yeah, I think it's a mix of like this has happened before and maybe they've tried other things
so it
and
feels
it didn't work.
fruitless.
Where they were like, yeah, where they're like, if you attack the thing, it's gonna kill him. So because I think in the past, it like this Shriek-Hawk has taken either other younglings or other like Mandalorian adults, and when they flew and tried to attack it, it just killed whatever it had, right? So yeah, once it feels threatened, I guess. So they've, to me, I assume they've learned this by mistake in the
Right.
past. So they have to find a different way to deal with it this time.
And well, again, a slower paced one apparently. So they put a plan together. They are, I guess, these mountains are no higher than the peaks of Kiramurut. I swear to God, I've butchered that. I was practicing earlier. I swear. Um, Kirimurut. Anyway, um, it's a location, I guess, on Mandalore or near Mandalore. It has references to Republic Commando's True Colors, which is a non-canon book now. But this is the first time it's been canonized, so that's pretty cool. And we found out that I guess Bo, in her basic training, which I assume was with Death Watch, I presume, right? Or I guess maybe some
Yeah,
sort
I
of
don't know.
Mandalorian military, but that's why I don't understand. Like, if there's a lot of confusing things about the Mandalorian stuff, we just don't know all the details, right? And Bo, especially, is guilty of just not revealing a lot about her past because I'm not actually
Well,
sure
I think
why.
she's kind of I think she's like a little more ashamed of the Death Watch stuff for sure. Um,
Yeah, but this
because I
group
mean,
that
like
she's in
her,
now is called the Children of the Watch. It's a spin-off group from Death Watch, right?
yeah. But I mean, Death Watch was definitely more of a terrorist group in the times of the Clone Wars, sort of thing. I don't know, because there's the whole storyline with her and her sister. Her sister's a pacifist, Duchess Satine, and she's ruling Mandalore, but she's not ruling it the way that Bo-Katan and like Death Watch think they should be. That they should be ruling Mandalore as warriors and as fighters.
Yeah, but
So
okay, right. I know
yeah.
that. So is it possible that Bo's father, the former king, was more of that
Mm-hmm.
traditional style Mandalorian, and that Satine was the
Think
outlier,
so.
and that she's the one that took
Yeah,
the
like
family in a different direction, and that's why. So when when he's talking about basic training, it's again it's unclear, but it's probably around the same time that she
yeah,
joined Death Watch, is my guess.
probably yeah.
So she learned to climb mountains during that time, so it's no big deal. And they're told to bring the Shriek-Hawk training team, which again we'll just use that as I guess the most likely evidence that these are Shriek-Hawks, to train, to come along with their war party or hunting party as kind of backup, and that I guess the armorer says that they're going to pack extended laureates for them, which I think means that like that's their like grappling hook thing, I think, but
Oh,
that's
okay,
also unclear to me.
maybe.
I don't know what a laureate is. So Grogu and the armorer have some alone time as the rest of them fly off. They're kind of, here's the plan. We'll go, we'll scout it out, and then we'll climb up manually and save the kid. Okay, great. So they fly away, and Grogu and the armorer have some of their own alone time, which is, kind of fun because these two characters, it's always fun when you get to put two characters together that don't really spend a lot of time together alone or have to engage directly with each other. Um,
Oh, for sure, yeah.
yeah. So they head into the Forge, and we learn more about kind of Mandalorian culture and why the Forge is important. Right? They kind of use it as a metaphor. She says that the Forge is the heart of Mandalorian culture. It shapes, they shape themselves, um, and they shape steel, right? And they start as ore, and that they shape themselves through trials and adversity. Again, this is all just a metaphor for life, right? We start as this raw thing, right? This amorphous blob, and then through time and our experience and challenges, we become a more fully formed person, right? And they're just using the concept of forging steel as that metaphor, which is, I think, actually pretty cool.
Yeah, yeah. I liked this whole like scene with her and Grogu. Like I don't know. I very much just like the way she was kind of talking to him and kind of teaching him, and he's just kind of standing there
Absorbing,
listening, but
right?
he's also kind of having his little flashback
That's
moment
right.
at the
He's having
same
some
time.
PTSD. So we get to see that,
Some
like,
trauma.
the Forge itself, it's not entirely. I kind of thought that she manually kind of shaped and built these pieces herself, but no, they have like little blueprints that they're able to draw from. So she pulls up a blueprint for a
Right.
rondelle, and that's what she starts to forge. And there's this like hammer machine that's like crushing stuff. And as that starts to happen, she says the forge can reveal weaknesses, which I think they literally put that line in there so they could justify the flashback. Um, but I guess again the same idea being that the forge would reveal a weakness in the ore, as it would reveal, that the
Right.
trials of life would reveal your own weaknesses, I guess, is the idea. So, any other thoughts on anything that we've seen so far before we jump to the flashback?
No, I don't think so.
Okie doke, off we go. So we get the flashback, and it's pretty cool. We've seen this hallway before. This is the flashback to Order 66, and we're back at the Jedi Temple on Coruscant. And we see a very cute, younger version of Grogu. Only slightly younger and like only slightly cuter, is my opinion. It's like everyone's like, "Oh my god, it's so much cuter." I don't. It's not. It doesn't look that different, to be honest. A little bit
Not really,
smaller.
yeah.
Yeah, a little bit smaller. And so we're back in that same hallway. We see those same 501st clones taking out multiple Jedi. I've heard some scuttlebutt about why these clones why these Jedi are so easily dispatched by these clones. My only thinking on that is twofold. Okay, that the clones that we're seeing are elite clones because they're the part of the 501st. Right, we've known that they're kind of better than the
Yeah,
rest because
definitely.
they're Anakin's soldiers, right? And that these Jedi might be, younger, more inexperienced Jedi. So they're, an experienced soldier up against an inexperienced Jedi, and especially in numbers, the clones here win. Right? They take out a bunch of them quite quickly.
Right. I would assume so because honestly, at this point in time, like the war itself has like quote unquote just ended, right?
Well, literally just
So
ended like
all
a
of your
moment
like
ago. Yeah.
yeah, exactly. So all of your like super strong Jedi, like Kenobi and Yoda, like aren't they're off
Yeah.
doing like military missions, right?
Well,
Running their own kind of
actually, it's
campaigns.
more
Ayla
sinister
Secura,
than
Plo
that.
Koon.
It's more sinister than that. They initiated the Outer Rim sieges right at the end of the war. That's why, Utapau is in the Outer Rim, and Felucia
Right.
is in the Outer Rim. That's where these Jedi are killed, right?
Yeah.
That we see in Order 66.
Yeah.
They're too far to come help the Jedi at the
Yeah.
temple
Yeah.
at the end of
At
the
the
war.
temple, yeah.
Yeah, and not
Because I would
also
definitely
they're
assume
dead.
that the temple, you're right.
Yeah.
Well, yes. I would definitely assume, yes, the temple is full of younger, um,
Right.
more inexperienced, like still training, not necessarily Padawans, but, not even Jedi Knights, right? Like
Yeah, they're
yeah.
just
So,
regular ass Jedi. Yeah.
yeah. Yes.
Um,
They're not quite there yet. So, yeah.
So anyway, so they die. They get their asses kicked by those 501st clones. And interestingly, the clones here are voiced by Tamora Morrison, except for I swear to God, one of them does not sound anything like Tamora, but we'll get to that when we get there. Um, to, I think at this point we should just start like voicing clones with the D. Bradley Baker's voice. Let's just like start amalgamating the voice so that we can kind of just transition to having D. Bradley Baker do all the voices of the clones. How do you feel about that?
Sure. I mean, because isn't he just doing an impression of Tamora Morrison? Like,
Well, kind of, but I think it's very different. I mean, at this point, it's
oh
its
my
own
god.
thing, right? I don't think it sounds like an impression of Tamora Morrison at all anymore. If that's where it
No, I
started
know
at,
what you mean,
to
but
begin with.
like, but it's just like, oh yeah, fuck you, Tamara Morrison. These are all these guys are based off of you, but we're gonna get this other
Yeah,
guy.
well, he could have
I
voiced
mean,
them
they
all
do
in the
that in
Clone
Bad
Wars
Batch.
too. Why
Could
didn't
have.
come on?
I don't know. Probably didn't
He had
want
the
to.
opportunity. Well, if he doesn't
Yeah.
want to voice them, then he doesn't have to voice them. What I'm saying is, we've now,
Yeah, it's
in
fair.
in Battlefront 2, the clones were all voiced by D. Bradley Baker, and it was awesome, right? We got all those like
Yeah, fair
barks
enough.
that I'm used to, and then hearing Tamora's voice. I mean, we barely heard clones talk that much in the original trilogy, sorry, the prequel trilogy.
Yeah.
So it is actually a little jarring, to be honest. Um,
Yeah.
so
I'm just saying I'm not mad either way, no matter who plays them.
all right, fair enough. So 2 of the Jedi stay alive long enough to get Grogu into an elevator, and I'm still a little weirded out by the live-action clone troopers. I'm just not. I don't know how I feel. It just doesn't look quite right. But I thought they were better this time, for the record. They do this thing where they all shoot
Right.
from the hip, which is kind of a funny but consistent look that we've seen of the clones for a long time. But keeping your gun at your
Yeah.
waist is a really weird choice. So, anywho.
It is. Yeah. Maybe it's easier to hit Jedi that way. Who knows?
Maybe it's more. Yeah, throw them off. They're not used to
The
that.
angle is.
Yeah. So they get Grogu onto an elevator and they say, "The elevator, get the youngling to Kelleran, go!" And that's 3 Jedi shout that basically. And up the elevator he goes, and we open the door and we are treated to the face of Kelleran Beck, played by none other than Ahmed Best, who of course we know was the voice and mocap of Jar Jar Binks. What do you think of this?
Amazing. I thought it was incredible. I just recently, for the first time, I don't know if you've seen it. I feel like it's been going around a lot more lately, but it's a clip from episode 1 of him in the mocap
Yep.
of Jar Jar when they're sitting around the dinner table with like Anakin and his mom.
So he grabs his
and
tongue.
Qui-Gon.
Yep.
Yeah, but he's like sitting there and and people are just like, how were they not cracking up every second with this guy sitting there, like with his weird Jar Jar, like half Jar Jar mask, like looking at them and like, you know what I mean, having to interact with them. I'm like, oh fuck, that's so funny.
That's funny.
But yeah, I was like, yeah, I guess you just get used to it eventually. But I didn't necessarily realize what the mocap looked like for Jar Jar, right? Like, I don't know.
Yeah, he
It's
wears
a
the
lot for
funny
me.
hat thing, which I think is because Jar Jar's taller than he is, so
So
they use that
tall,
as
yeah.
as the eye line thing. So actually, it's kind of cool.
Yeah. I
Obviously,
always
of course,
knew it was mocap, but yeah,
you
I
didn't
just
realize it was
when you
that
actually
funny in real life.
I
Yeah.
didn't realize what it would actually look like when you think of mocap. I just thought like, oh yeah, he'll like have the dots on him, but
Fair enough.
it was all CGI. I didn't think. I don't know. It's killed me, but yeah, it's good to see him get to be a Jedi though. It's
Yeah, I
sick.
mean, so here's the thing. Okay, look, I think we need to explain why that's cool. Others might be like, weird. I don't know what's going on here. Here's what's happening. So, Ahmed Best obviously played Jar Jar. Jar Jar was hated by every fan ever, right? The worst character.
Yeah,
So much, basically. And you might largely agree.
poor guy.
He is kind of the worst. But it's not Ahmed's fault that that character was written that
No.
way. So,
No.
and it's not really in the. I think the actual performance is actually quite good. It's a little wacky, obviously,
Yeah.
but the performance itself is quite fun. So he apparently Ahmed got quite down on this. He was kind of getting shit on by fans, and at one point contemplated suicide. It's really sad. So he got brought back
man. Yeah.
recently to do a show called Star Wars Jedi Temples Challenge, which is like a reality show for kids, I guess, where he pretends. I'm not exactly
Okay.
sure how that show works. I'm going to be honest with you. Let me pull up the Wikipedia. Maybe there's a description that I can use. Is a children's game show currently developed by Lucasfilm. It debuted on Star Wars Kids website and YouTube in 2020. The series puts its young contestants through a series of obstacles as a part of a Jedi training course that tests them on the core Jedi principles of strength, knowledge, and bravery. The show is hosted by
What?
Ahmed Best, who plays the character of Jedi Master Kelleran Beck, the mentor of the contestants. Best is joined by his droid companion AD3, voiced by Mary Holland. So there you go.
That's cool. I didn't even hear about this.
Yeah, so he is been around, I guess, for a little while, but now he's been fully brought into canon here as a Jedi who survived Order 66. Kelleran Beck as a character, and obviously, by the way, this is a huge redemption moment for Ahmed Best. I think it's really exciting. I don't personally think his performance as Kelleran is like off the charts great here. I think he feels a little cold for someone who's experiencing Order 66. I could feel like there could have been a little bit more emotion there, but hardly,
Jedi aren't supposed to feel emotion, Julian.
They still feel emotion. That's not true.
It's not the Jedi way.
That's not.
Well, I mean, they're not supposed to. They're not supposed to let their emotions like distract them, though. That's
but
thing.
all of the Jedi are being murdered. I don't think you can repress that emotion very easily. I would like to at least see them struggle with that, right? A little bit. Anyway,
yeah, fair enough. But he's just that good. Okay, he's calm, cool, collected. He's doing his Jedi duty.
Okay, all right, fair enough. I'll agree to disagree with you on this one, but either way, it's really exciting to see him here. That's a very cool. So I don't think it's fan servicey at all, to be honest. I think it's just a really cool redemption story for Ahmed Best.
Would be bringing in like someone. Yeah, fan service would be bringing in someone we already know, or like someone that wasn't supposed to be there. It's like, yeah, if it was like Quinlan Voss, we'd be like, okay, well that doesn't make sense because he's not supposed to be there, right? Like,
sure.
It's to me I like that it's a new character and it's someone we don't know, but at the same time, it's giving this actor like a redemption thing, which is so lovely. So it's like, hopefully, he's got like a positive bit of Star Wars now to think
he's been
about.
more recently embraced by fandom, so that's a good thing.
Yeah,
and
it looks like everyone's kind of coming around and being a lot nicer to
yeah,
a lot of the prequel actors, but
as is everything, it's all forged through time. Everything is solved if you wait long enough. So let's learn a little bit about Kelleran Beck. I'm over on Wikipedia again. Nicknamed the Sabered Hand, very cool nickname. We see him use his sabered hands because he has two. It's unclear if he normally uses two lightsabers or if he just is using another one from a dead Jedi here. But he has a blue and a green.
He picks one up that's in the elevator.
Oh, really? Oh, okay, because that other Jedi gets
Yeah.
blasted when he lies. Okay,
Yeah.
got it.
Yeah.
So it's unclear which of those is his lightsaber, I guess, though. If it's the blue or the green one. And I think I want to say it's the green one because the blue one was the one that the other one was carrying. But anyway, it's not really that big of a deal.
Yeah, that makes sense.
So he tells Grogu everything's going to be all right. There's this cool fight sequence here where he takes out about 4 or 6 clones. It's a little clunkily staged. Like I feel like it could be more dynamic. That's what I was talking about before. Like a little bit more cinematic here. It's just kind of like cut, cross cut, shot, counter shot type situation. If you're doing lightsaber combat, I like to be able to get a clearer look at kind of how that's all playing as a part of a larger sequence. It just feels like a little bit of like movie shortcutting to me.
Gotcha.
But cool to see the clone troopers here. I think they look even better in this sequence than they did in the last one upstairs in the Jedi Temple. They're riding in on these cool speeder bikes with sidecars, so they steal one of those. Oh, by the way, there's also a force push. He force pushes one off the ledge, and we get a little scream. That is cool. I'm gonna give you that. So they escape on the speeder. They're being chased by 2 low altitude aerial transports, LATs for short. Very cool to see those in live action again. Absolutely beautiful design. I think this is some of the best looking parts of this episode. Is this whole sequence. Coruscant looks very cool. We see the burning temple in the background, which of course I'm sure Padme is crying about right as we speak. And they're being chased by these 2 LATs. We see the first time in live action, not just 501st clones, but we've seen the regs, just the non-colored ones, but we also see shock troopers in this episode as well, which is really cool for me.
Yeah.
The red ones. Led by Commander Wolf, I think. No, Commander Fox is the leader of the shock troopers. We don't see him here. I don't think that's I don't think so. I'd be shocked if that was the case. So they pull this like dive maneuver and they cause one of the lats to crash or something to crash into a building, but they're undeterred. They're still being chased. He turns down one of those train tunnels that we saw last week and does this cool turn / escape move. I don't really, again, this is where another example of like, I don't feel like this is well realized, right? We don't see the explosion. We don't really see, like, it just kind of like, it just feels cheap. And the way, by the way, that Ahmed's sitting on that speeder bike is very upright. It just looks a little awkward to me. So take it for what you will. I think the chase is cool. This tunnel sequence is not so much. So anyway, this subway / train takes out the LATs, and he's able to use a speeder bike and go up through the same train station that we saw last week at Monument Park. So a little cool to see the same parts of Coruscant, but also you'd think Coruscant would have more locations considering it's an entire planet that is a city. But what do I know? So
right, but no, I thought it was interesting because you get to see the top of that mountain again.
Yes,
right, but right because it's like the same spot that we were in Mando last week.
Exactly.
I always wanted to call them the ISB, but with Dr. Pershing and everything.
Exactly. Yeah, the Umat, the peak of Umat.
Yes, yeah. And I was like, oh, that's that mountain you're not allowed to touch that we saw last time.
Maybe back then they were allowed to touch it, right? Because again, different eras.
Yeah, maybe.
This is much closer to the Bad Batch era, of course, at this time. And so we're off to meet quote-unquote friends of his. They land on a platform with a Nubian ship. This is very similar to Episode 2 when Padme's ship is exploded, right? And her decoy is killed. Kind of just like this random platform in seemingly the middle of nowhere. Cool to see that Nubian ship design back. I always thought it was really cool, like that, like, kind of like
because that's
futuristic.
That's a Naboo ship, right?
Yeah, my understanding. Nubian. That was always how I've kind of conflated those two things, and that design of that ship is very influenced by like very old school, like 20s and 30s style sci-fi, right?
Yeah, definitely.
And it's a really cool look
super
with this
shiny
chrome. Yeah. It's also the first ship that we saw R2-D2 on, technically from a canon standpoint, on the visual basis.
Yeah.
Pretty cool.
Yeah, no, I just for the first the second that I saw that ship, I was like, what the fuck? I was like, that's not Padme's ship, is it? I was like, no, that doesn't make any sense.
Well, it's probably the Naboo senator's ship, and that could very well be Jar Jar Binks at this point, to be clear.
Yeah.
So it's possible that Kelleran meets Jar Jar Binks, and that would be a pretty wild experience. A little out-of-body experience.
People would be so mad.
Why?
I think people will be so mad if Jar Jar Binks is the one who saves Grogu.
The last time we saw, technically Jar Jar Binks is already the one who saves Grogu because Kelleran is Jar Jar Binks.
No, I know what you mean. Yeah.
But what I'm saying is like
he's not on that plane or that
ship. No, they said that it's already fueled and ready to go, but it's possible. And just saying it's possible, right? We don't know who the senator for Naboo is at this time. And the last time we saw Jar Jar was at Padme's funeral, which is actually after the events of this take place. So there you go.
Well, yes, yeah.
All right. So, not yet. Almost. We're hours away.
Yeah, she hasn't died from sadness yet.
Yeah, no. She's lost the will to live. Ooba. So they land at the platform and they're expecting to see more than just Kelleran, but he said there is no others. This is kind of where I thought the performance was missing something. He's like, there are no others. Like, okay, that's very in line with the prequel acting, so I guess that works. Another LAT, another LAT lands on the platform carrying clone shock troopers and regs. This is where the troopers don't sound at all like Tamora. They're like, everybody off, shoot him. I'm like, that doesn't sound like Tamora at all. Like, I don't know. That's odd. That was an odd one to me. And then the guards tell him to take the ship. This is very selfless of them. It's wild. Yeah. They sacrifice themselves so that they can escape. Nice to see those Naboo guards again. I always thought they had cool outfits. And so they engage the troopers, and that gives them enough time to take off 2 V-Wings chase them. I also thought that's really cool seeing V-Wings again. V-Wings, of course, being the precursor to TIE fighters, but we saw
Yeah.
V-Wings in episode 3 as well, and we've seen them. We also saw them in the Bad Batch this week. So big week for
Yeah.
V-Wings. Big week for V-Wings. Like that. And anyway, they're chased by the V-Wings, but they're able to jump to hyperspace before they're hurt. Any other thoughts on this flashback?
I mean, like I said kind of earlier in the episode, I was not expecting to get this flashback.
No, neither
here.
was I.
So, and we've been this is kind of something we've been talking about for the last couple years on this show of who saved Grogu, who got him
Now
off
we know.
Coruscant, right? So, yeah, my theory that it was R2, wrong. So, I guess
Yeah, it didn't make sense that it was R2. I just like that never made that just never made sense.
I just wanted it to be so
That's a good
bad.
snort.
Yeah. I just wanted it to be. I just wanted R2 to have put him inside his little like robot body so bad. But yeah, I knew. Obviously, whatever. My theory is busted officially. But
Darn. I don't remember
yeah,
what my
I
theory
know.
was, but I think my theory was just that it wasn't your theory. So I feel
Yeah,
feel
pretty much.
satisfied
You're
with
like, well,
that.
it's not that.
So just to be clear,
Yeah,
the
so
Nubian
it's
ship
very cool.
is an H-type Nubian yacht. So there you go. And
a
those
yacht.
officers are Royal
Fancy.
Naboo security forces. Okay.
Okay, interesting.
Yeah, and so I think I might have got the
Yeah.
acronym wrong. Low altitude assault transport. So there you go. Big fan of
Okay.
those ships. There is a full size, well, not full size, obviously, but like a quite a large Lego set for the LAT. I very tempted at some point to buy that and build it. All right,
Yeah, no,
so
I was
no, go
glad
ahead.
we got this. It's kind of, it gives us another little chunk of the story that we've been curious about. Gives us a new character to
root for.
root for and to know, okay, like what happens, again, what happens next with them, right? So I wonder where these two went after. I wonder what happens to Kelleran, right?
Yeah, I guess are they
Is he
gonna
still
fill
alive? Is he
in?
dead?
Yeah, we don't know if he's dead. I guess
Yeah.
the idea is like so many at this point, so many Jedi survived Order 66 that it's like who knows who knows when along the timeline they might have died. Some probably died of old age.
Yeah.
But
True.
it's cool to see Kelleran. Yeah, new character's awesome. Love the nickname Sabered Hand. Very cool. Maybe his performance will improve if we see him again.
And just,
I guess the question
his
is,
performance was that bad.
I
thought it was good.
He
His
doesn't do
lightsaber
very
work
much,
was
and
good.
what he gets, I don't feel like he really capitalizes on. That's just my opinion. But
I mean, they maybe could have given him some more lines, but
probably would have helped.
yeah.
He does get to say to Grogu, "It's going to be all right, kid," which is kind of cool. I guess the question is here: will they show us everything that happens to Grogu up until the moment he's found by Mando in season 1, or are we just going to get up to a point where okay, now he's safe and we're good?
Yeah, I don't know. I feel like maybe we'll get another little jump of like how the Empire
yes,
the Empire?
the Empire treats him
how they get
poorly.
their hands on him, right? Like maybe we'll see.
They kill
that,
Kelleran probably, and then
I mean, yeah, most likely. But yeah, we'll probably see a little bit of that maybe, but yeah, I don't know. I wouldn't expect to see his whole story.
Yeah,
anytime soon.
I also like the flashback. It's my favorite part of this episode. It's fun to be back in the Clone Wars era.
Me too.
This version of the Order 66 doesn't quite feel. I mean, we've been to this exact moment a couple times. It doesn't quite feel as traumatic this time, and that's nice. We've always been revisiting it a lot.
Yeah.
It's a fun action sequence. Again, a little clunky in times, but largely looked good. So I liked it. I'll just put it that way. All right, so back to the Mystery Planet. The Armorer uses scraps of Beskar donated by others from the Covert. This is something they had talked about, by the way, from other episodes. To make Grogu a rondelle that he can grow into. I thought like that's funny. I was like, well, you'll grow into it because it's like so big. It fits over his entire chest.
Yeah, because that's what they would put on his shoulder, right?
Yes. Mm-hmm. I feel like even if he gets to full size,
not pauldron, but
yeah. If he gets to full size, I feel like even then he's still gonna be too small for that to be like fit on his shoulder.
But maybe it'll just be on his chest or something. I don't know.
Yeah, that'd be
But
cool.
yeah.
That would be cool. Kind of like a chest piece on his
Yeah.
armor. That'd be dope.
Yeah. But right now it's basically like an entire chest piece for him. So
Yeah, and it's got the Mudhorn Rondell on it, which is obviously the sigil of
Mhm.
Din's house now,
Ad-
which is really cool. Yeah.
Adam, my partner there, was joking about how he's like, oh, he's like, I just want someone to make a meme about how like Grogu looks like Flava Flav with like a big. So he's got
Right.
this huge circular like
Yeah, it's
it looks
fair.
like a bling
A
on him
big
now. I'm
clock.
like, oh, that's really funny. Yeah.
Yeah. Uh,
Yeah.
so back with Bo and the hunting party, they land a distance away from the mountains and make their way on foot to their destination. We get some really cool shots of landscapes, but we cut to, I think, a poor example of the volume because it looks so cheap. I just think it looks like not a real space. It just looks like a set. And
Really, I thought it looked like the Grand Canyon.
well, it does until they cut back to their like, okay, we're gonna make camp here, And I thought
Oh yeah, yeah,
that looked cheap. The
Gotcha.
other parts I feel like might have been shot for real on some sort of actual outdoor location, but then because they needed the mountain to be a specific way and they wanted to use the volume, that they were able to kind of like, oh well, we'll set up camp just over here.
Right.
I was like,
Yeah,
okay,
yeah.
that's
Fair
convenient.
enough.
I just feel like anytime you use the volume to show a location that is a part of a wide space, it looks bad. That's my opinion on that.
Mm.
It's better when it's a part of a smaller space. So they decide to make camp at the base. We'll make base camp here and try for the summit tomorrow, which is a joke that I think is from Simpsons or something. And it's just like, again, it's like, really, like, what, you guys are going to jump into action now? The youngling could be dead already. Like, how do you have?
Yeah.
You guys really have time
You
to
don't know.
nap? Like, it just seems wild to me. But whatever.
Maybe they know that tree cocks only feed their babies during the day, so they're like, "Oh, we got time."
I just feel like we're really doing the show a lot of favors by saying that.
But I know what you mean. Yeah, it's like, why wouldn't you? Like, you'd think Mandalorians themselves too, they would be fine with like scaling that at night. But
You'd think they have like heat vision and stuff,
Yeah.
so
yeah,
you probably have night vision. So food is being handed out. It's dinner time, and Bo is curious about how this all works. And it's kind of fun to see Bo kind of being, genuinely curious about how the
Yeah.
way of the Mandalore works, right? And so she's like, "Hey, Din, how's this all go?" And so it turns out you don't eat together. You get your
Yeah.
food, and then you go find a little hiding spot where you can take your helmet off, so no one can see you eat. What do you make of that whole idea?
Interesting. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it seems like a very lonely thing to never eat a meal like together, right? I mean, we've seen Din every once in a while like tip his helmet up to like eat something, right?
Yeah,
When he has to in front of people, but yeah, I guess that like you're not going to eat like that all the time. Like sometimes it's nice to take your helmet off and
sure.
you know be able to
Use
eat a
both
meal,
hands.
which also been like helps us be like, okay, so they can probably bathe too. Like they probably take their armor off to bathe and that kind
Yeah.
of stuff. So
But
it's
the
not like
question
they can
is,
never.
the question, of course, is, do they bone with their helmets on?
They must, I guess.
I think they must. I think
'cause you
the more I've
can't
talked about this, it's been going around online. Is like, oh, how does this actually work? I think they bone with their helmets on. I really do think
they do
that.
too. Yeah. Yeah.
Anyway, we'll
Can't
probably
take 'em
never
off in
know.
front of
We'll
pe- in other
probably
people,
never
so-
know. Never get to kiss. Never get to feel the warmth of another human's skin against your lips. Quite sad.
Oh. Weird.
Yeah. Do you think that I phrased it oddly?
Yeah, a little bit.
Okay. So Bo gets to stay by the fire as the leader of the war party. Paz tells her, so that's another little bit of world building. Kind of showing that I think Paz has some respect for her, and also the fact that she jumped into action, was able to put this plan together. She is the most badass of all these Mandalorians, but I guess we haven't really seen that in action except for maybe a little bit of last week and the week before.
Well,
So
yeah.
she takes her helmet off. She's got pretty nice hair for helmet hair, but it's a movie. That's movie magic,
Yeah.
And then she eats alone. So next morning, they put their fire out, and they remind us of the plan. No shooting, or it'll kill the child. Okay, got it. They've said that twice now in this episode. So now they start mountain climbing. They use their grappling hooks, and they climb it, pretty easily, I think. And I guess theoretically, it's not that scary to climb if you have a jetpack on. if you
No.
if you fall, you can always just save yourself, And
You'll be fine.
and also these grappling hooks like seem to attach to anything basically instantly, so that's also very convenient. So they're able to kind of just like climb up to where their last thing was and then shoot another one. But it's like a sheer cliff, so impressive. I actually did think that it was pretty cool to see Mandalorians climbing up the side of a mountain. Generally speaking, just a cool visual.
Yeah, I especially liked seeing Paz and his like big huge gun. On
Oh
his
my
back.
god, that huge gun is ridiculous. It's too big.
But-
Get out of here with this.
But he's huge. I don't know who plays him off the top of my head.
Well, I guess
but,
the idea is that it is at least voiced by Favreau,
but Dave,
right?
or by Favreau, right?
By Jon
I don't
Favreau,
know
but
if it's
I
Favreau
clear.
in there.
I think it is. That's my hunch.
Because like he's a big dude, but yeah, like it's just I don't know. He just looks so massive compared to. Like,
Well, I
Rogue,
think it
right?
is because he's got the right body shape, and no offense to Jon Favreau, he's a little bit more rotund, and
No, I know, but like, yeah, he's a little. Yeah, that's what I mean. I'm like, yeah, Jon Favreau's not like a skinny dude, but like just with all the armor and stuff, if that is him in the armor and the costume, like.
Impressive.
It just makes him look kind of muscly. Yeah, it definitely beefs him up to make him look. Yeah, but
I mean, when he was younger, he was
cool
he was a pretty ripped guy. I mean, I bet he's got muscle under there still.
Yeah.
I think so.
Oh, I'm sure he does. Yeah.
So they get near the top and they spot the nest, but they go silent. Go radio silent. And it happens to be empty, but there is a Mandalorian helmet there, which is a little dark. So someone has been eaten before, is the implication. Din uses his heat vision and he locates a hot spot, and Paz jumps into action. He's like, wait, don't jump in. We don't know what's over there yet. But he's like, it's my son. And that's like weird timing. Why did we wait until this long to find out that this was his son? Why did that only happen now? Did the rest of them know already? And then this is just kind of like a way for them to get that into the plot without it feeling clunky, because it feels clunky either way. I don't know how you. I feel like there's got a better way to do it. I don't know. But turns out that the heat spot was actually those baby raptors. So, and they look so funny. I actually think this is really cool. I think they're using puppets and then they're like digitally enlarging them, so they look quote unquote real.
Yeah, probably.
And they just look like baby chickens or something with like without any feathers, and I guess a little scary when they're like three of them chomping at you, but he's got his armor on, so it's not too bad. The mother returns at that exact moment, which of course is convenient, and coughs up Ragnar, which again this also thought looked kind of weird, like no slobber or anything, comes out completely dry, right? and it's like, all right, that's and just like, it's just, you've been holding him there for like 36 hours in his gullet. Like, how does that work? That's unclear to me. So, but I guess the idea here is
digested or anything. He's just whole.
Yeah, it's weird.
He's got his armor on though.
Yeah. I mean obviously
it's like Boba Fett being in the Sarlacc.
It protected Boba Fett, so it can protect Ragnar. But still, I would have liked a little bit more something in that. To make it a little bit more cinematic. And I'm just using that term kind of loosely, but it just feels very like TV show budget style version of doing this, instead of, if this was in the movie, it would look quite different, I think. And I think the original promise was that this was going to look like a movie, that these were going to feel and have the same scope and feel as a movie. Anyway, so Ragnar's coughed up, and that gives Paz the opportunity to attack, and so he flies like directly into its mouth, which I thought was an interesting choice. But also weird that he didn't choose to use his blaster at that point, because the kid was safe at that point, or at least more safe. But the raptor grabs the kid again, and then we get into this chase sequence. So Bo tries to save the kid at first. By the way, this chase sequence looks great. It's much more dynamically shot. The way that they use the camera in this kind of like shaky cam methodology makes it feel more real, quote unquote. So I thought this was cool. No issues there, no notes. So Bo tries to save the kid first, but in the process loses her shoulder pauldron, So that's pretty cool. Because we see what happens
Yeah.
later. You're like, oh, well, she loses that. I wonder what's going to happen if she gets a new piece, and that's in its own thing. We'll get to that. Next, she grapples onto the beast and stabs it in the neck, which causes it to drop Paz, which has enough. I guess he gets thrown off and lands on this like mountainside. Then the rest of the trainers or whatever, the rest of those Mandalorians start shooting their like nets, essentially these net like things onto it. Look like these kind of loops that they shoot around the wings, and then they tighten around the wings so it can't fly. It's kind of a cool design.
Yeah.
And this causes the beast to drop Ragnar, who is saved by Din in a very Iron Man 3 sequence where they're falling towards the water. And then the beast basically it's a little rough. It falls into the water and is immediately eaten by that giant turtle crocodile beast that we saw from episode 1.
Yeah, by another Crocosaurus.
Yeah. So, yeah, pretty exciting. Nice moment for Din and Paz as he drops off Ragnar, and they kind of have this little like acknowledgement of each other's effort that they put in, which is nice. What did you make of this chase sequence and kind of everything leading up into this?
Yeah. I mean, I like kind of how it ends, especially because you always get the feeling, because obviously Paz has fought Mando before, trying to get the Darksaber from him. So I feel like there's always a little bit of tension there coming from Paz Vizsla, because I think he still wants that saber, and he's been beaten by Mando, but now I think it's like, okay, like you're part of the group again. You're not I can't remember what they were calling him before when he was an outcast.
Apostate.
An apostate. Yeah, he's not an apostate anymore. He's back in the group, and now he's saved Paz's son. So Paz kind of owes him something at this point now, or at least owes him like that respect of like, all right, maybe I
judge you a little too harshly. Yeah, right.
Yeah. I did a little Googling here too. He is played by a different actor.
Oh, okay. Interesting.
So he's voiced by Jon Favreau, but he's played by Tate Fletcher, who is a former MMA fighter and an actor as well.
Huh.
So
okay.
He's in Breaking Bad very briefly. I don't know. He's in a few things, I guess, but he's a big, muscly dude.
He's a big guy. Okay.
Yeah.
Right. Well, good to know. I bet you if he ever takes his helmet off, it'll be Jon Favreau under there, though.
Yeah, he's a stunt performer and stuff.
Yeah.
He's a stunt performer and all that kind of stuff too. So, but I mean, it's an exciting kind of action sequence, and obviously, it's nice when a kid doesn't get eaten by raptors or whatever you want to call them.
That is fun. That is nice.
At first, before they, we'll kind of get to it, but before they show up at the end, they were like, oh, I guess like are they just gonna leave those like babies? Like you're like, oh, that's kind of a bummer. Like that's just like a mommy.
I didn't even consider it
trying to feed her kids. But
I literally didn't think about it until they came out of that ship in this very awkward way. It was so funny. I actually thought that was a very like legitimate like laugh out loud moment that was earned, because I did not even consider that.
Out of there. We're like, oh, okay.
Yeah. So they return home. They return home to Celebration. Everyone's excited. There's this weird like clap. I don't know if we've seen them do this before, but they do like the X Factor move where they put their like wrists across each other and then like bang their armor together to clap. It's kind of a cool little world building thing.
Yeah.
And the armor speaks with Bo and kind of congratulates her, saying, hey, you did the highest honor that you can for the Creed, saving a foundling. This is the way. And offers to replace her missing armor piece. But Bo is kind of like, well, hey, my pleasure, but now you have 3 more foundlings to take care of, and that being those baby raptors. So I guess presumably eventually they'll fly them. So that's, ride them, and that's pretty cool. Yeah.
They'll train them and ride them.
I'm imagining a scenario where someone's riding the mythosaur, then you have these like big dragon things that the others are riding alongside. Wow. Very intimidating, certainly. So very back in the forge, I love how Bo is sitting here with like her like hands over her lap, like very like almost like a schoolgirl here, like while the armorer works on her armor piece, right?
Right.
And she says that she can rebuild it, but without the modern refinements. I don't know, like what kind of modern refinements do you think her shoulder piece had? I don't know what that means.
I don't know. Yeah,
I don't know.
I'm not too sure.
Yeah.
Paint.
Yeah. I guess maybe paint. That's probably what it is. And she asks if she wants to have the night owl signet on it like she used to. But Bo is like, oh, well, actually, is it okay if I have one night owl signet and one mythosaur signet? And she's like, funny you ask, because the mythosaur belongs to all Mandalorians, so it's always acceptable to wear that. It's kind of like this, fashion police situation, which I think is pretty funny. There's obviously more than that, but that's how I like to imagine it.
Well, yeah, because what is the whole thing with the signet is about? I don't know.
It
'Cause
represents,
the reason why the Mudhorn
yeah.
is
I don't think it's.
Mando's and Grogu's is because they've defeated one or something, so it has to have some kind of meeting, I guess.
I think
Yeah.
it does, but I don't. I think it's pretty fast and loose with how that works. I don't think you have to go defeat a
Yeah.
mythosaur or whatever to wear the mythosaur crest. But
No. But yeah, I think it's sometimes you can't just like pick whatever you think is cool. Like it needs to have some.
I don't
kind
know. I
of
think they kind of do kind of pick whatever's
significance.
cool. I mean, I don't know. The Death Watch signet was a shriek hawk, right? It was that kind of like
Oh, okay. Yeah.
weird W shape
Right,
thing
yes.
that is a
Yes.
shriek
Yeah.
hawk. So that's kind of cool. We don't know where they got that sigil from either. So, anyway, we see her pour the mold with the sigil of the mythosaur, and Bo tells her that she saw a mythosaur for real. And we're like, whoa! I'm like, that's
Yeah.
wild that you would tell her and not Din, first of all, but also like
Yeah.
that it's misinterpreted as a vision, a noble vision. It's like that is so funny to me. I
Yeah,
love
just
that.
Straight up doesn't believe her.
Well, it's like she just interprets it as the only way that she can, given the information that she knows she has.
Yes.
That they're not alive right now, which is
Yeah.
fair. And she says, no, it was a real one. And then she says, when you choose to walk the way of the Mandalore, you will see many things. And she's like, no, really, it was real, right? This is the way, she says.
Yeah.
And that's it. That's all we get. Cut to the shot of the skull on the wall. Cut to credits. And I just love the kind of like lack of information provided by the armorer here, but it feels true to the character, right?
Yeah.
It's like,
It
did
does.
she really give no information, or is saying this is the way actually somehow makes sense? I don't know. So
Yeah.
I don't.
I feel like she loves to kind of like talk in riddles, or like they like to have her talk in riddles. Like, it's like she's very like one word answers, or like it's almost like this is the way is what you say when you just want to like end a conversation.
Well, I think you're right. I think that is certainly a one way it is being used, but another way I think it's being used here is she's basically saying, Bo is asking, what does it mean, right? And
Right. Yeah.
the armorer is saying, you have to figure that out for yourself, right? That you have to interpret it on your own,
Yeah.
right? I can't tell you. So I think that's pretty cool, actually. Okay, just quickly, I'll read our IMDb review of the week here, and we'll move on to the Bad Batch because we're running out of time.
Yes, we didn't do that yet.
Yeah. So, this one is by Windsor Landrius, and they give it a 4 out of 10. Before I get there, by the way, I will mention Commander Chris Stinger back in the chat. See if we maybe get some Stinger zingers again today. And they mentioned this is the way would make a killer street sign. I agree. Instead of one way, this is the way. Yeah, that's good. That's good stuff.
This is the way. Yeah.
How do they know where we're going?
I like that.
Pull over. Okay, so this is called, the title of this review is 32-minute and such a filler episode. Sad face. With wit, by the way, I love calling out the spelling errors and stuff. It's like no one proofreads these. Wit, so missing the H in with only 8 episodes, one such insignificant episode is included. The flashback was interesting to watch, but the main plot was not advanced at all. This is true. We talked about this at the beginning. That's actually not an entirely uncalled for comment. We avoid the term filler episode, though, on the show. Mandalore.
I would not call this a filler episode, but
well, no, not because we got to see who saved Grogu on this episode. I mean, that's worth something.
Yeah, exactly. Like there's a lot of substance. There's enough substance in this that it's not just like a one-off. Who cares?
Exactly. Yeah. So no Mandalore, no Navarro, no Pershing, Elia Kane on Coruscant, no Empire, no Moff Gideon, etc. I don't get it. In 1 week, we get 58 minutes. The other week, we get 32 minutes. A long ellipses. Such short running times
Fair
are
complaint.
disrespectful to the viewers who have waited 2 years for this season. I'm starting to appreciate Andor more and more. Yeah, Andor was good. This doesn't. Just a quick note to people: one show being good doesn't make another show worse. They are on their own.
Yeah.
They stand alone. So Andor is great in and of itself. Compared to Mandalorian, comparing it to Mandalorian is a fool's errand. That's not helping it unless you're comparing and contrasting, which can have its own merits. But in this case, it's like, you know, the length of episode is compared to Andor, which did have more 1 hour episodes, which I did appreciate. Is I think maybe fair to call out in this case because we have got a couple of short ones, and only 8 episodes this season is short. Would I call it disrespectful? You know, so I don't think so. I don't think I would call it disrespectful. Stinger saying here, I used to work for a journalist company online. I got fired for my take on Batman. Put a pin in that one, Stinger. I don't have time to dive into this right now, but we'll come back to that. That is interesting. Okay. Finishing off this review. This was good storytelling. Blah, 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 blah. I'm starting to appreciate Andor more and more. This was good storytelling with perfect runtimes, 45 to 55 minutes per week, talking about Andor. In general, I really liked Season 1 and love Season 2 of The Mandalorian. But this season has no thread. It has no story. What is the arc of this season? I can't tell you, and we're halfway through it. I think that's a fair comment to say. We don't know where this is going. I would like a little bit more sense of purpose and direction for the show. It seems to not have much of one right now, which is challenging. I don't know why it took 2 years to make this season, but COVID probably had something to do with it. I'll just put it that way. All right. We have 25 minutes to cover all of the Bad Batch, so we're going to jump right into it.
Yeah.
No break. Here we go. So we're going to be talking about the Bad Batch, Season 2, Episode 14, Tipping Point. New information has our heroes taking on a dangerous mission. No, they're not taking on a dangerous mission. I mean, I don't know. I guess it depends on what you mean by our heroes.
That doesn't happen in this.
Yeah. I don't know. Weird. Both log lines seem a little off this week. There is some similarities though across these episodes. You know, in the case of Tipping Point, they're being hunted by the Empire for a youngling, essentially, right? In Omega, and then of course in the flashback, in also similar timeline, the flashback in the Mandalorian, Empire is hunting a youngling in Grogu. So some kind of cool parallels there, I suppose. Directed by Brad Rao and Saul Ruiz, written by Dave Filoni and Jennifer Corbett, starring D. Bradley Baker, Michelle Ang, Jimmy Simpson again. A few of this, the cast is bigger. Jennifer Hale's back as Senator Chuchi, etc. And Stephen Stanton playing Governor Tarkin. So there's kind of a lot of a bigger voice cast all of a sudden. Just generally speaking, love this episode. I think it's one of the best the show has ever done. I think it nails the action. It nails the atmosphere and spookiness that is Mount Tantus and the Imperial science machine. And it feels expansive. We're going to all these different places. We're jumping back and forth, and we get this kind of sense of it being a big story that matters and it's important. And again, talking about direction, I feel like we understand the course and direct. I mean, we're much later in a longer season, right? We're into episode 14, right, of a 16-episode season. It's going to have filler episodes are easier to forgive in a 16-episode season. So, despite not wanting to use that term,
that's true.
We'll call it that.
Fair. I just would have wanted more episodes like this one. But...
Oh, I know. I feel like is what the show should be. I really truly feel like it should feel like an adventure show, not in the same way that Mandalorian feels like an adventure show, but one that's able to explore different tones and different places. We don't have to be locked into the Bad Batch characters the whole time to explore this era. And I think, by the way, most people would probably agree with that, including, by the way, our IMDb review of the week from Movie Turtle 2013 on giving a 9 out of 10, titled Plan 88. I'm convinced that the last 2 episodes are going to be insane. You know what? I agree, Movie Turtle 2013. I think that those last 2 episodes are going to be really, really cool. Anytime they've done those kind of combined,
I hope
and just
so.
a note, Next week, 2 episodes, same week. How we're going to cover it, I don't know yet. We'll figure that out next week. But it's pretty cool
Yeah.
to when they pull these these episodes together, like they did with the premiere episode, that 90-minute episode, and the one that followed. You really get this kind of
Yeah.
movie feel, and I thought this episode looked so good. Like the environments alone were next level beautiful from an animation standpoint, really amazing. And the action, same thing. So it's just getting better and better. I agree. Next week's episode is probably going to be insane. So returning to the review here. We see the Bad Batch integrating themselves into Pabu society, but they'll never be able to settle, and they know it. I agree largely with that, but we'll touch upon that when we get to it. If it isn't them in danger and having to fight for themselves, then they need to fight for all the other clones eventually. I don't necessarily agree with that. And again, we'll come back to that. This episode eases us into the finale, and I'm convinced Filoni will throw it out of the ballpark. I think that's a mixed metaphor. Throw it out of the ballpark? Don't you hit it out of the ballpark? I don't know. Whether the batch whether the batch will join Rex's operation, or whether they'll find their quiet spot, however the batch will end it, it will be narratively deserved, and I honestly can't wait for the conclusion of the second season. Totally agree. This is one of the few times that I'm like right on the exact same wavelength as one of the reviews on IMDb, which
that was probably one of the it wasn't an unhinged review.
You think most of them are unhinged?
Some of them are just like, what? Not unhinged, but most of them are just wild. I don't know.
I think that's a fair assessment, to be honest.
I don't know. They crack me up a lot. I feel like a lot of them are overly negative, a little too harsh sometimes.
Sure.
With not necessarily the best. I don't know, overall concept of what's going on.
Sure, fair enough.
A bit deeper meaning, but yeah. I would agree. I would agree with this person.
So there's lots to cover here. Is there any other thoughts that you have on this episode as a whole?
No, I mean, I just wish there were more episodes like this in this
Agreed.
season where we can kind of go, you can have both interesting groups in the same episode. I don't know. It's just, it was nice getting to see the batch in the same episode as Crosshair, kind of, and getting to see all the characters together again. So.
Well, they are setting up, as that review mentioned, they are setting up staging the finale, so that's pretty cool.
Yeah.
Okay, so we actually start on a planet that is new to canon, although it was previously a part of I guess what's it called again? The extended universe. It's the planet Balmora, which is this black and white planet, apparently. I just thought it was so cool looking. It was pure black and white, basically. It was a factory world located in the Balmora system of the galaxy's colonies region. Despite being close to the core worlds, the planet had a strong sense of independence and was slow to join the Galactic Republic. During the Clone Wars, Balmora left the Republic and joined the Confederacy of Independent Systems. During the Imperial era, the Galactic Empire made use of its foundries, using them to build many of its all-terrain armored transports. The AT-AT, obviously, the former pirate queen Maz Kanata, marked it as the location of an outlaw garage on a map she included in the book that became known as the Smuggler's Guide. I don't know. That's a lot of my cousin's sister's best friend's boyfriend. Anyway, cool to bring another planet into canon. I thought this one looked really cool, so no qualms there. It's a military base. Clones are being transported by TK troopers and a clone commando onto an Imperial transport. Actually, again, I know the type of transport this is. It is a Gonzanti class cruiser. We've seen those before in The Mandalorian. That's one of the ones that Bo and Din helped capture. And it's under the command of Captain Pierce. Captain Pierce is played by Ben Diskin. Another cool Imperial officer, doesn't get to live very long, though. Dies shortly after this. Yeah.
It's his own fault, though.
Yeah, he literally commits suicide. Mm-hmm. So they are loading up these clone prisoners, and they jump onto the ship. They're heading out into space, ready to jump to hyperspace. But then all of a sudden, another ship jumps out of hyperspace, takes out their hyperdrive of the cruiser, so they can't run. But they do call for help and start to return fire. Stinger mentions here that Balmora looks completely different in Legends. Interesting. I wonder. I mean, they mention in this, at least in the canon version, that it's a factory world. I guess that's why we get this like black smoke and stuff. Interesting. Maybe it's more has more greenery and
Yeah.
etc. So another ship comes out of hyperspace, and we jump into this amazing action sequence. This is my favorite part of the episode. I think it's so cool to kind of get the space combat and this infiltration prison break sequence with clones fighting stormtroopers and a clone commando and an imperial officer. It's like all these really cool toys brought together and fighting. It's just really cool to me.
Yeah.
So we see that it's a group of clones, and with Rex, Echo, Gregor, Fireball, and Nemix, I think. Really cool episode of a really cool group of clones. Sorry, and I again love the designs of the clones. Love how we see them engage in combat, just basically showing up all these other TK troopers, these stormtroopers. And just again the dialogue
so easily.
Oh yeah, super easily. They even kind of take out, I feel like, the commando pretty easily, but maybe that's because they're brainwashed.
Yeah.
I don't know. I also would like to better understand why the commandos are so brainwashed. Like what's special about them. Anyway, it's cool. Stinger mentions that in Legends it made weapons too, but he's talking about talking about it in Star Wars: The Old Republic. So interesting. It's just cool to get another planet, as I mentioned before.
Yeah.
I love the dialogue here. Like, let's make this quick, and like just kind of this like really again action movie style dialogue. I just think it's really awesome. So the plan is to use this leech vessel to board the ship, rescue the prisoners, and escape before reinforcements arrive. They take out the weapons and launch their leech ship. It's got this cool, like, it uses these little thrusters with air to, like, navigate and twist. That's a really cool kind of thing additional level of detail that we don't always see in Star Wars. We hear the classic Imperial alarm sound. And we get one of my favorite things is when people yell things and then other people yell them. We don't get that second stage here, but we get the "prepare to be boarded," which is, I think, a really cool line no matter when it's said.
Yeah.
So they work as a unit to confuse and trap these TK troopers. Did find it a little disappointing that they're still using stun. These aren't clones.
I was like,
so
I noticed that too.
Just shoot these mofos.
Right, still stunning.
Yep. Just out here stunning like their daddy.
They're not ready yet.
Stunning like my daddy. Stunning like my daddy. And that's sorry about that.
Oh
Birdman joke. Lil Wayne. So they notice that I guess the Imperial officer is like, oh shit, we're getting overrun. So they initiate protocols, and that means, I guess, to just erase the databanks. That clone commando jumps into action, which I also think is really cool here. Just like how there's kind of this multi-purpose soldier. And meanwhile, the rest of the clones who are doing the rescuing kind of split up. Echo and Nemec take the bridge, and I thought this is a really cool sequence. They take out two troopers, then they have to deal with the commando, and they kind of work together to do that. Echo works to kind of save whatever data is being pulled from the system or being deleted. I also really like the visual here of like watching the data start like slowly being deleted and like getting in there just in time. Nemec, it seems like a very cool and badass clone, threatens the Imperial officer, but he decides to commit suicide instead of revealing any information. I don't know where they find these diehards so quickly after the turn of the Empire, but here we are.
Right? Yeah, just immediate with his chomping down on that electro cyanide pill.
Yeah, we've seen those a couple times now. It's pretty cool visual still, in my opinion. Fireball goes to rescue Hauser and the other prisoners. Another cool looking clone, in my opinion. And also really cool to know that Hauser's not dead and that he's involved in this, and we'll get to see him more. So that's a big, let's all take a moment of pause.
There.
Yeah.
Because is it also, who is it? Gregor or Wolf is there too, right?
I don't think Wolf is there. Gregor's there. There. They haven't got to Wolf yet. Yeah.
They haven't got to Wolf yet, but Gregor's there now, yeah.
Yeah.
Like, oh, nice. Making their own little crew now.
I really like this group of clones. I think they all look really cool, and they have this cool personalities and badass. Like, when Fireball goes solo to rescue Hauser, he does this, like, he's doing all these, like, rolls and he's taking out so many troopers. to rescue
Yeah.
it. I just think it's so cool looking. The action sequence itself is just well choreographed. Hauser's surprised to see them, but it's kind of like good to see you, Captain. Throws them the gun, and like they start getting on their way. Just this really cool action trope stuff, all condensed into this one short action sequence, and framed with this really amazing, I think, music, traditional Star Wars action music, in my opinion, from Kevin Kiner here, really driving the action. I also love, of course, the classic "I need more time" from Echo, right? As he's trying to download the details. But at that exact right moment, we get the Star Destroyer popping in, all in gray. It's a Venator class, which is still cool, and V-wings being deployed. So we're still dealing with V-wings. We still got the Venators, but I just love the kind of the way that they shoot it. Makes it feel much more menacing as it pops out of hyperspace. And I just thought that was just I need more time. Well, you don't got it. Just classic action adventure stuff. They make their escape just in time. I love the little maneuver they do where they pick up the little pod in one spell swoop and then jump to hyperspace just in time. So yeah, generally speaking, love that action sequence. Rachel, quick, what did you think of that sequence?
I just liked it too. I like how they just get in, they get out. Like it's so competent. They're so good at what they're doing. Like it just shows that they're like a different level of
totally.
I don't know, of a unit, right? Like than some of these other like newer stormtroopers and clone troopers might be. So you love to see the good guys just get in, get out, and do what they want, what they're good at.
Totally. Yep. We cut to Mount Tantus, and we're with Crosshair. He's being escorted from a cell block full of other clones by a couple TK troopers, like the attitude that Crosshair is bringing to the sequence. A lot of people are big fans of Crosshair, so I'm very much coming around to him. So he's being escorted into a room with one of the female doctors. I believe this is Dr. I'll just double check who this is. Dr. Scalder, I believe, is the character's name.
Is it me, or does she have an accent that sounds like Omega and the clones a little bit?
She does, but maybe that's just from spending so much time with clones or something. Someone suggested that she was maybe Dr. Pershing's mom, which is possible, I suppose, but I feel like it's one of those like universe is too small scenarios, if that's the case.
Yeah.
So she's there and she's kind of like asking, "Oh, how's it? How are you?" He's like, "What's it to you?" Again, loving the attitude. She's urging him to cooperate, so that the doctor, quote unquote, the doctor as he refers him to, won't resort to tactics that he quote won't enjoy, unquote. That's when Dr. Hemlock arrives, still being played by Jimmy Simpson. Loving his performance here, just so moody and menacing. I just think he's like a level above. Yeah, it's awesome that they got him for this. So he's also trying to ingratiate himself. He says he's impressed with Crosshair's healing, and he's not upset about how he shot his officer. In fact, he thinks it shows initiative. He wants to give him a clean slate. I don't really know what that means, to be honest. Like, what do you mean? Like, to be put back into service, or like, what do you mean?
Yeah, I don't know. I think I don't know. I think
he's full of shit anyway.
To him a little bit.
Yeah,
I think he's full of shit. Yeah.
Yeah, 100%. So he's saying, "Listen, if you help me, I'll and deliver the Bad Batch. I'll help you." But Crosshair says that he's wasting his time, that they won't turn her over. I love this line from Dr. Hemlock. He says, "They don't have a choice. She's a clone. She's Imperial property." As if that would matter to them, to the Bad Batch. Oh, well,
right?
why didn't you mention that? Here you go.
Right? Oh, you own her. Yeah, I guess just take back your thing. Yeah, like what?
Yeah, like they're doing a really good job of showing how Dr. Hemlock just does not have any care for humanity, really.
Absolutely not.
Makes for a good villain. Anyway, he says he doesn't know where they are, which is true. He doesn't know where they are. And he that's difficult. It's gonna be difficult for him because he's gonna get tortured. But I guess Hemlock's looking for any information that might be helpful, and is saying, "Hey, listen, we'll do this all day. We'll until you break, and you'll just give us whatever we need to know." But again, they don't know. He doesn't know where they are, but he could set a trap. Hunter mentions this later. So we get strapped to a table, and we see the infamous interrogation droid being used here. I feel like one of the earlier times. Loving the like whoa 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 sound, you know.
Yeah, it's classic. Yeah.
Yeah.
I was like, this. Yeah, we actually get to kind of see a little bit more of what it does, kind of.
It stabs them in the
this
neck, and then
episode,
I don't really know, but I'll tell you this: his like spasming that he's doing, and the sounds he makes at the end of the episode with like the gurgling sound
Ugh.
is wild, like very unsettling in my opinion.
Gross.
Yeah.
Yeah. To me, it just looks like they're injecting something painful into you.
Yeah,
like,
I
to
guess
torture
that's
you.
what it is. I kind
don't
of
know.
always thought it was like truth serum or something, but maybe it's just pain serum. I don't know.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'll just call it a torture droid at that point.
Yeah.
The news of the prisoner escape that we saw at the beginning of the episode pulls Dr. Hemlock away. So we cut to Coruscant, and we're at the Cortez sisters' garage again. And this is where this group of clones is regrouping. Hauser is recounting the tale of what happened to him to Echo and to Senator Chuchi. So nice to see that she's not dead yet.
Yeah.
He says that he had 8 men, and only 3 survived. All the prisoners were clones. They were being held for dissidence and questioning and or disobeying imperial orders. That you can just trump up any charges you want, I guess, against a clone, and it'll stick, right?
Yeah,
but
much.
I also get the impression that these are actually quote unquote problematic to the Empire. Like they're not. If they were following orders, this wouldn't be an issue. You know what I mean?
Yeah. But yeah. But I mean, what's dissonance? Is that just like I don't want to shoot that woman and her child just because
Yes.
you told me to? Like
That's exactly right. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. It's like, yeah, I feel like the Empire's level of dissonance is very
It's a
low
low
at this
bar.
point.
It's a low bar. Yeah.
Yeah.
So I thought this line from Hauser was pretty funny. It's like, there was other clones with us in this prison, but they were sent somewhere else and they never came back. It's like, well, it's a prison. Did you expect them to come back? Like, I don't really understand that one. But anyway, it's more spooky when you say it like that. They need to figure out where the ship is going. That's kind of like the underlying thrust of all this stuff, right? Where is everyone going? Echo knows someone who can help encrypt the data. We're talking about tech at this point here, and that they stole from the Imperial ship. Tucci tells them to go, and she'll work to figure out what she can from Coruscant. So, Commander Stinger here with a tidbit of information. Clones should have barcodes so you can return to sender. Clones get rowdy, repack them back to Kamino. Well, Kamino's destroyed, so we can't do that. Also, I think they do have barcodes, like at a cellular level, which is why that one clone who was that assassin in earlier in the season, they were shocked that he didn't have an identifier.
Yeah, exactly. Like an identifying code on him somewhere. Yeah.
Yeah. And
I mean, they've got some way to give them tattoos, so.
Well, again, I think it's more at a cellular level.
Yeah.
And then also, again, of course, one of the theories that's going around is that what Dr. Hemlock is doing is, whatever they're doing is turning these clones into these kind of like soulless, assassins, essentially.
Right, yeah.
As a possibility. So anyway, back with Crosshair on Mount Tantus. I'm trying to be very quick because I'm running out of time here, and I don't know if we're gonna have time to finish all this. So we might have to pick this up next week before when we do maybe just a blowout on the Bad Batch and do the Mandalorian on another day potentially. But we'll figure that out next week. We are back with Crosshair. He's being tortured by the droid. The female doctor, Dr. Scalder, orders them to stop so she can check his pulse. And she's like, orders were so not to stop until he talks. And, from that cheeky TK droid, trooper.
Yes, yeah.
And decides that, hey, they can't talk if he's dead, which, again, kind of a little bit of a classic line there. But turns out he might have been faking it a bit because one of the troopers goes to restrain him again, puts his weapon down, and Crosshair grabs it, blasts both of the guards, points the blaster at the doctor, demands that he be released. She tries to talk him out of it, tells him that he can't possibly escape the facility, and then even if he did, the hounds would get to him before he could get very far. Says, think this through, lower the blaster. Instead, he stuns her, which I think is an act of kindness from his part. And he makes his way.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, he could have easily just killed her, but chose not to. So maybe she'll eventually help him later.
coming around, yeah.
Yep. Anyway, he makes his way through the facility, stumbling around. He takes out 2 guards at first. He misses twice, which is, I think, a really cool way of showing he's not entirely himself, right?
Well,
Then
yeah,
he takes
from
out a
all his
whole
pain,
squad.
torture.
Sorry, say that again?
Oh, just from all his being tortured, he's still a little drowsy,
Yeah,
woozy.
100%. Yeah. But again, cool
Yeah,
way of showing it in action.
yeah, yeah.
Then he takes out a whole squad by like using a like mist to block everything. And then he escapes to like a comms panel. He uses the access card from the doctor to access the long range transmitter and sends a message, says Plan 88, run, you're being whatever, etc., etc., etc. But before he's able to finish the transmission, the command center, excuse me, severs the connection and gasses Crosshair, knocking him out. But not before Hemlock can come and gloat and brags about how he has immunity to this special toxin, which felt like unnecessary, but sure, why not?
Yeah,
What did you make of
again,
this
such an
second?
evil villain thing.
What did you make of this escape
Yeah, I
sequence?
mean, I like it. It's creepy with the whole gassing him at the end. I like the little bit of redemption we're giving Crosshair with him not shooting the female doctor there, just
Mm-hmm.
stunning her. Like, he's making good choices, and yeah, he makes the choice to again kind of sacrifice himself a little bit. Instead of just running and trying to escape, he goes and tries to send this message instead. So
Right.
to me, it's like he's trying, right?
Well,
He's
we saw after
working on that
the
redemption arc.
we saw after the last. I mean, last time we saw him that he'd given up on the whole Imperial thing, and so seeing him
Yeah.
kind of stick to his guns on that and not give up the Bad Batch is really satisfying. I think.
Yeah, yeah. Agreed.
But okay, so we're gonna have to put a pin in it here. I apologize. I have to get to a hockey game. It's the last one of the season. And there's lots to cover here. I want to talk about this. We're gonna pick up right after he gets gassed here next week,
Okay.
and we will do that leading into the finale. So again, love this episode. Really enjoyed it. I just thought it had really amazing pacing. Really felt the stakes. This is really a great example of how you set up a finale. Totally agree with that IMDb review from earlier. This is a clear 9 out of 10 in my book.
Yeah.
Any
Yeah,
final thoughts?
We're getting into it now. No, I'm so pumped for next week to see kind of how this all wraps up, and we get to see does Crosshair survive this season or not.
Probably not. I still don't think so.
Yeah, I don't think so either, but we shall see.
Yeah, we shall see indeed. All right. Well, we'll be back next week with 2.5 episodes of the Book of Boba Fett. Sorry, the Bad Batch. Too many B's.
Yes.
The Summit and Plan 99. By the way, the Summit, which I thought was the summit of the mountain, is now just a boring ass like convention. So Imperial convention.
Yeah.
I think not quite as cool.
No.
Right. Anywho, we'll be back soon. Thank you everyone for listening. I apologize we can't finish it all right now, but this is what happens. This is like the 3rd podcast I've recorded, or 4th over the last 6 days, or something like that. It's quite a lot.
Yeah.
So we'll be back next week with more. But in the meantime, follow us on Twitter at Tower Babblecast, Facebook.com/Tower Babblecast. Head over to Patreon.com/Tower Babblecast and help support the show. May the Force be with you.